Hello everyone, welcome. I'm Robert, and today I want to discuss Fallout Wasteland Warfare. This is a miniatures war game set in the Fallout universe by Modifuse Entertainment, and I'm gonna talk about it from the solo skirmishing perspective, although the game does offer a solo sandbox campaign element, which I'll give you an overview about later. But yeah, the main reason why I got it is because it is a soloable miniature skirmish game that allows you to use your own terrain and create your own maps, much like Warhammer or BattleTech. And there's really not a lot of pickings in the solo board gaming hobby that meet that criteria that soloable skirmish board games. So this is my first one, and yeah, we're gonna talk about it today. So let's start with what I've played and what content I have. So I have the core set, as you can see the box over there, okay? So I've only got the core set, and the core set comes with a few miniatures for mutants and a few miniatures for survivors. So a couple factions. And there's also a couple of neutral or not necessarily survivor faction miniatures that you're gonna, in this case, you have this Brotherhood of Steel guy that you're gonna side with the survivors, and then there's this Deathclaw that you side with the mutants. Okay, so you have miniatures of both factions and those that I mentioned, and you get a bunch of cards, dice, and first thing I need to address is the fact that this game does not come with terrain. You're gonna need terrain in order to play, and you can keep it as simple as just pieces of paper if you want. If that doesn't bother you, you're not gonna have to spend all that much, but you will definitely need, for a more full-fledged experience, you're gonna have to invest in some terrain. And this is the first time that I've invested in terrain. I've played other war games in the past, but typically I've just borrowed terrain when I play those multiplayer back in the day. I have never really done terrain myself. So this was my first experience, coming up with or buying terrain. This is one thing that this will allow you. This will serve as a conduit for you to explore terrain for solo play, the terrain part of the miniatures wargaming hobby. Okay, now that can come as a negative as well, because that's more money that you're gonna have to invest. Okay, but what I did in my case was I searched through the forums and saw what people recommended, and I spent about $30 on some terrain from Corvus, Belli, Infinity, and some urban terrain. So let me show you here. So I'll leave a link in the I'll leave a couple links in the video of the terrain packs I went with. So you have this urban scatter terrain pack that comes with some. It comes with some containers and some walls, and some just urban pieces. And then I also got this Corvus Belli cardboard terrain pack. Okay, so it comes with these container boxes and a few of these buildings. All right. And one thing I recommend, if you end up getting this terrain, this cardboard terrain, one little suggestion, just to make it add a bit of heft to it, and so that it stays in place. So you can just add a bag of sand inside. Just tape it, double side tape a bag of sand, and that'll add a bit of weight to it. All right, and you can also put a bit of double-sided friction tape. There's a short video I made showing what this tape does. It's very handy, so it'll make it stay in place a bit more, right, when you manipulate the miniatures, so that the terrain doesn't move around. All right, so when you manipulate the miniatures, the terrain stays in place. So let me show you another example here, right? So I went ahead and added a little bit of a bag of sand, taped it, and then some friction tape at the bottom. It really just upgrades the cardboard terrain. All right, and for about $30, this was very suitable. Okay, The other thing I did, which I had a lot of fun with, I bought a couple of scale toy cars, and I found this tutorial on Reddit that um, makes it look post-apocalyptic. So this was the first time that I've worked on terrain, and it was very very fun. I'll show a picture of what the car looked like before. All right. And this is the result. Okay, so very very fun working on terrain. I've never done that before, so this was a nice vehicle for that. And these are some 3D printed barricades I got as well. Okay, outside of the couple terrain packs I got. All right, so enough of the terrain. Now let's talk about the game. All right. So the game, again, the reason why I bought it is for the skirmishing experience, and as far as content for the two-player set, you do have plenty of content. You got plenty of multiplayer scenarios, which if you want to solo them, you totally can. Although that's not the biggest way. That's not the best way for the AI to shine. The majority of scenarios are geared towards multiplayer, but there are scenarios that are more specifically made for the AI, and there's scenarios where you can just duke it out against each other. There's scenarios that are more objective based. So I've played a few of the scenarios. I've mostly focused on the scenarios where you just duke it out against each other between the two forces, all right? And I've had a lot of fun. This has been very, very fun. It's very different from anything else that I have in my collection. And I want to comment on the rulebook. All right, I want to mention the rulebook. So this game, there is a lot going on. All right, there's tons of rules in this game. It's a almost 60-page rulebook. All right, so when you first read it, it's a lot of information to internalize. All right, just a heads up. However, once you go through it, stuff just clicks. All right, it just makes sense. And the reason why the rulebook is so dense, it really tries to cover a lot of edge cases. A lot of the rules that, like, if you just read the rulebook through the first time, half of what you find there, you're not really gonna, it's not gonna be pertinent to your first few games. All right, there's certain weapons that your character uses or abilities that you don't really need to memorize that initially, but you really don't know that the first time you read the rulebook. You're just doing your diligence and reading everything to prepare for the game. But like a third or half of that is really not going to matter when you just play with the base game characters to some extent. All right, when you just keep the scenario simple. So the rulebook is extremely well done. All right, it's a masterclass rulebook for the amount of information that this rule set has. It could have been a recipe for disaster. All right, it could have been just confusing and awful. But for how many rules, for how dense this rule set is, the rule book is just a masterclass rule book. All right, very 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 well done. So check this out. It has not only does it have a word index, right? And it has the icon references and all of that. So it has a icon index, and it will tell you which page to go to if you want to read more about that icon. So I have not found a rulebook that does that just with the icons. So this is just very, very impressive. And, if you had told me that Modiphius, after my experience with Skyrim, if you haven't seen my video on Skyrim, I really I had an awful experience with their Skyrim board game. If you had told me that Modiphius made a rulebook this good, I would have told you to give me the number of your dealer, because I want some of that crack cocaine. All right, but no, really, seriously, this rulebook's amazing, and I'm shocked that this comes from the same publisher. I like the disparity of quality between this rulebook and the one from Fallout. It even being a Bethesda IP that they handled. I just can't believe how different the quality is between the two rulebooks. It defies logic. But I'm just being fair. I'm just being real. Rulebook's amazing. I wish they had put that much attention to detail as they did in this rulebook with the Skyrim one. Unfortunate, but all right, sorry. I had to make that side comment because after Skyrim, I after that experience, I could have almost sworn off anything from Modiphius, but I wanted to give this a shot. I've heard interesting things about this game, so that's the rulebook, right? Now, what does the gameplay encompass here? So when you play a skirmish game, you're gonna pick a couple factions, right? And let me show you the types of cards that you're gonna find here. So you're gonna pick a faction. So you have I have a faction card here for the survivors, and each faction has a faction bonus, right? So there's survivors and mutants and super mutants in the core set, right? There's faction cards, and so you're gonna pick a faction, and then you're gonna build a force, right? And this is one of the most fun parts of the game, building your force and loading them out with different weapons. So there's about 6 characters per. There's about 6 characters per faction here in the core box, and you have a thick stack of different weapons and abilities that you can equip to your characters, all right? So there's abilities and armor and different weapons. So I had a lot of fun just building the forces, and you can download to figure out the point values and try to build your forces. You're gonna download the sheets from the publisher to figure out the point values for weapons, for characters, for abilities. You're gonna figure out all of that out through the sheet. Now there's a very impressive official app where you're able to build the forces, and it was a breeze to use. So I do have to give kudos to the app. All right, the app is very well done for you to build your forces. Okay, now. One comment on the aspect of building forces and balance. So as far as competitive play goes, I'm gonna give you a heads up because I've read a lot about the game before I decided to buy it. I did a lot of research, and from what people say, the balance is all over the place with the game. Okay. So if you're looking for a balanced experience, you're not gonna really, don't hold your breath for this. It's a fun, more casual experience, and the RPG elements, which I'll talk about later, the Sandbox RPG, the campaign elements, you probably want to buy it more for that. But as far as balance, the consensus seems to be that the balance is a bit all over the place here. So just a heads up. Regardless, though, I feel that if some people saw how much value you get here compared to like Warhammer 40K or Age of Sigmar, I feel like you get a lot more from this, and the publisher does offer. The publisher does offer a lot for free. There's tons of free scenarios. You can actually get all the character cards for free from the publisher. So it is very impressive, or the majority. You like proxying is kind of almost like encouraged with this, because you can get the character data, the weapons, a lot of it you can get just from downloading it from the publisher, and you can just proxy the miniatures if you want, which is it's like it's a bit unprecedented in this category of miniature war games. You would never see something like that from Games Workshop. They really want to milk you drive for every cent you have. So it's kind of a bit of a breath of fresh air. I haven't played Warhammer in many years, but I just remember how expensive everything was, and the codexes changing all the time. It's like it's impossible to keep up. It was so ridiculous. So here you get a lot more leeway with free scenarios, free content from the publisher. So I do appreciate that. All right, I do have to point that out. So you'll build your force, right? And once you build your force, and it's measured in caps, right, or points, that's the cute name they came up with for it. You'll build your force, and then you'll create you'll build the map based on the scenario that you're playing. So there's linked scenarios for a campaign. There's skirmishing competitive scenarios. And there's also AI specific scenarios, but honestly, I really haven't Uh, I don't really care too much about the distinction between the scenarios. It's very sandboxy that way. I really haven't cared whether it tells me if it's a AI scenario or not. I've just kind of gone for it, all right? So you'll build your force, you'll arrange your forces based on what the scenario instructions tell you, and it could be just a death match basically, or a scenario, a objective based scenario. So you'll have all of your character cards equipped with their weapons laid out, and you'll start, right? So the gameplay basically, it's very simple. So you get a couple actions, each character activates, and you get a couple actions that you can do. So you get two actions, and from the list of actions you can choose, you can move, you can attack, charge, you can also prepare, or you not prepare, sorry, you can put your character in overwatch basically, so that they react. So you can spend one of your actions to make your give one of these to your character, and it basically just sits and reacts to something. And you can also interact with the environment, all right? So that's another one of the actions you can do. So very simple. A list of actions you can do. And one interesting thing that this game does, so you're going to go back and forth activating characters between the factions, but one interesting thing this game does is, so this is the active or ready or whatever, and then spend token, right? So when it's your turn, you can choose to ready a character but not immediately activate it, right? And later, if you decide to accrue these ready tokens for each of your characters, you can then activate them all at the same time, so you can pull off some interesting maneuvers with that. So it's not just you activate one character and that's it. You're not limited to just that. You can leave a bunch of characters ready, and then when you decide to activate, you activate all characters that have a ready token, okay? And then you do a bunch of actions in a chain, in combo. So very interesting how it does that. Just fun, moving your characters around the map, and attacking and charging and all of that. And another very fun thing about the game is interpreting dice, right? So when you attack, it's basically a skill test, and each character will have certain attributes that each character will have certain attributes for attacking with certain weapons. So for example, this Soul Survivor, if you want to attack with a melee weapon, you use the strength attribute. So when you roll this white d20, you have to roll a number equal or less than that. If you roll higher, you lose, you fail the test, okay? So the Soul Survivor, in this case, you'll roll dice for strength, and depending on the weapon you're using, you're gonna add dice of certain colors, right? And this reminded me a bit of Imperial Assault, for how there's different colored dice that focus on different things. So green dice will typically focus on making sure that you pass the test, all right? So it subtracts from the test result. Blue dice they'll add special effects. So these icons allow you to do special effects with the weapons, all right? That's what this will do. Then the black die typically will add it'll add more damage to your attack, and then the yellow die is for reducing your your target's armor, all right? And then the red die, when you roll for armor, you have to roll equal or less than your armor value, and otherwise you just don't get any armor damage reduction, right? So that's what this is for. So interpreting, when you roll a bunch of colorful die to figure out the attack results, that is very fun. Just interpreting the dice, right? I have a blast every time I roll for an attack and figure out the results. That's super fun, all right? So I've had a blast with this from the skirmishing aspect. Now, as far as the campaign aspect, so the game offers. And before I jump to that, let me talk about how the AI works. All right. The AI. So one of the most impressive things about this game is the AI, right? So the AI is very well done, because each unit, right, each unit, in this case, these are the AI cards for the mutant, right? But each unit card also has a AI card. And all you do is you roll this blue die, all right? And then you interpret the symbol, right? And that's what the AI will do. And the AI has some interesting behaviors. So if let me show you another card, right? Depending on the background color of the result, right? So you have this table here, right? Let's say that I roll a bottle, right? A single bottle. So depending on the background color of the letter, you're gonna so if it's white or dark, the character will act recklessly or it'll act defensive. Okay. And then the underline, it means whether the AI is, whether the unit is willing to disengage from its enemy when acting. All right. Now, there's even more granularity here, because if you roll double or single bottle, it'll determine whether the AI attacks with ranged or melee. All right. And then there's here, based on the hit point value of the character. Sometimes, not every AI card table does this based on health points. Sometimes there's other factors that determine this side of the table. All right. And then here you have a target priority. Okay, when determining a target to attack, and it even comes with a handy AI card here for reminders. Right, for what weakness or what those terms entail when figuring out character, which character to attack. So this very handy, very smooth AI, and the great thing about it is that you don't have to adhere 100% to what the AI tells you. It's very flexible. What I like about this is that the AI system will determine on my behalf which unit will activate, and by rolling, it'll give it a bit of a general sense of direction, okay, of what the AI will do. And from there, I can, if I see that the AI is going to do something really stupid, I can still kind of nudge it in the right direction. So it's very flexible that way. All right, you don't have to 100% adhere to this. All right, I just like the flexibility of it. One thing I do suggest, though, and the way that the game actually tells you to set up the AI, you have these numbered tokens, right? And you have to assign a number to each AI card, all right? And then you have to shuffle these tiny tokens and then like flip them, and it's just very fiddly. So I just have a suggestion, right? Just shuffle the AI cards, right? And then you can just flip it, and you don't have to do that. You can skip that part of the setup with the tiny fiddly tokens. Just flip it and then roll the die for the AI. Now, for some unit cards will come with multiple miniatures. So the hound dogs, there's actually two. There's actually two. There's actually two dogs that there's one unit and AI card that represent two dogs. Okay, so in that case, it's very simple. Just photocopy the AI card for the dog, right? And give it a number. So I just use a marker there on the sleeve, and then you can just add a little sticker or something, so that you know which dog is number one and number two. All right. And this really just makes the AI setup a breeze. You don't have to use those tiny fiddly tokens. So speaking of the tokens, right, that's one of my few negatives I'm going to mention. The tiny tokens are a bit of a pain to use. And they want you to, when moving the units around, they really want you to just have these tiny tokens for damage. And every time the unit moves, you have to move all of these tokens with it, and that's just awful. I don't like that. So what I do instead is I try to just use the unit card to keep track of damage, all right, and just use a die instead. All right, so that's my little upgrade suggestion. Now for multiple, for AI or unit cards that have multiple that have multiple units, like the dog in this case. That's the one exception I make. Still, I prefer using dice to track damage. All right, just moving those tiny tokens is simply a pain. All right, but yeah, so that's one of my few complaints. Now, I do have other complaints. So I've had a blast with this. Let me also cover the, because I did say I was gonna mention the campaign aspect of this. So there is a campaign element to this, but to be honest with you folks, the reason why I just skipped on this is I already have so many campaign games, and this rule set is so dense, so heavy, that I just did not want to add the extra layer for figuring out how the quests work here and the in between. Although it does sound very enticing, I just don't want to model it even more with more rules. All right, but that's not a point against the game. It's just me. I don't want to add even more rules. I just want to keep it simple and have deathmatch skirmishes. But there is a settlement aspect where in between missions you gain currency so that you can upgrade your character. Okay, and you can. It can be very sandboxy. So that's one thing that when I play this game, I think sandbox. This is just so sandboxy. You can be as creative as you want with the terrain, and you can just kind of make up your own like stories with the campaign missions. It does have that. It does have that property. It's one of the most sandboxy games I've played as far as the meta aspect of it. The rules this just works as a great framework for you to come up with your own cool missions and mods. It's very moddable. It has that. It almost has that Bethesda game quality, how they're moddable. It kind of translates to this surprisingly. All right, now. Speaking of that, this doesn't evoke Fallout a whole lot to me, through the mechanics and gameplay. All right, I do have to be real about that. You could have told me that you could reskin this with almost any IP, and I really don't think that you would miss much. All right. Just in my opinion, I don't think that this really screams Fallout through the mechanics, but the miniatures look cool, and the art's nice, the iconography, the aesthetic of the cards, that does come across. But as far as the gameplay, I don't feel that it it evokes Fallout, honestly. Okay. So yeah, so that's the campaign aspect I wanted to mention, and there's a lot of There's a lot of supplements that you can purchase to enhance it. All right, there's something called Into the Wasteland, which gives you a framework for coming up with your own scenarios. Now, I've only bought the base game, right? So let's talk about the value here, because this is my biggest gripe with the game, right? So I think as far as miniature wargaming core sets go, this is one of the best I've ever seen. This is very impressive. It's a bit pricey, but it's still a bit pricey, relatively speaking, compared to other board games. But in the landscape of miniature war games, I think it's pretty good. The value that you get, I think that the miniatures, the quality is it's all right. It's PVC. I've heard, and that's one of the inconsistencies, right? I've heard that there's PVCs, there's resin, so there's two different materials that they've used for the for how they make the miniatures, and the quality. There's nothing that matches that sprue quality from Warhammer or bolt action miniatures, right? This it's just not it just doesn't match that. But they're nice cults regardless, but because they're a bit lesser quality, I'm not all that motivated to paint them, right? I don't think the strength of the base game anyway with the PVC miniatures. I don't think its biggest strength, like the quality of the miniatures. It's all right. It's nice, but not its biggest strength. So that's one of the complaints I have. Like the miniature quality is a bit inconsistent, and all right, now the value, right? So there's a nice core set, but my biggest problem is the distribution model that this has. So you have to buy the miniatures and the cards separately. All right, that didn't used to be the case, but apparently they had some manufacturing issues, and now they started selling things separately. So that's a bit of a pain. So sometimes the cards that you need with the AI stuff is sold separately, and this might be out of stock, and you only have the miniatures. So that's a bit of a problem when you separate them like that. So that's a bit of a pain, but not just that, it's also the value proposition of the miniatures, especially when you look at the miniatures from the publisher's website. It's extremely expensive. It's prohibitively expensive. And really, I like this as a nice little one-off product if I'm itching for a wargaming skirmish experience solo. I just wish I could increase the miniature count a bit more. And I think that so you can buy core sets for extra miniatures for survivors and super mutants, but it's like half the cost of the core box, or more than half the cost of the core box, and it's a tough sell. I just want like a couple extra dogs and a couple extra mutants just so that I can have a bit higher miniature count. And I haven't found a product that really caters in the line that really caters to me. I just other than buying a second core box, which might be a bit overkill. I think I might have to do that. I might have to trade for a second core box or something. I just want a bit more. But even if I do buy one of the miniature kits, the quality is gonna be different because those are resin and this is PVC. So I'm like a bit conflicted with buying more. That's my problem with this. The whole product line is a bit of a mess. Because they tend to be out of stock, and so they went from including the cards to not including the cards, and now they're remastering all the miniatures. I've also heard that the values, like the point values for the units, change all the time. And I also recently heard that they're removing the armor mechanic of the game. They're completely removing it, I don't know how they could do that, because that completely changes the dynamic of the game, and there's so many things that are tied to the armor mechanic. I might have misheard or misread that, but that sounded shocking to me. How like this line has been out for like 6 years. You're gonna remove that? I don't know. It's just strange. So as far as delving too deep into this, I think I'm just happy with the core set. All right, I'm gonna keep it like that for now. It's nice if I want a little skirmish experience every now and then. The game, with the rulebook, once you start playing, stuff just clicks. Okay, even though it's very dense, but once you start playing, stuff just clicks. All right. This does, and I can also see this being very fun multiplayer. By the way, I can see this being a blast multiplayer. But as far as the solo experience go, for skirmish games, this is my first one, and it's just great AI, and I think I want to explore more in this field. I've heard of Rangers of Shadow Deep, and I also from the same publisher. There's also 5 Parsecs from Home, so I do want to try those experiences in the future. But I think that pretty much is all I wanted to say about this, folks. I think I'm gonna stick with just the core set. I wish I could expand it more, but I just have a bit of an issue with the way that the value proposition of paying like $40 for just a handful of miniatures. I know that's at the end of the day, that's what a lot of war games boil down to. But I can justify it. Maybe if I see it on sale, I'll add a couple extra miniatures, but I will say. But yeah, folks, that's Fallout Wasteland Warfare. Great solo miniature wargame sandbox. Very unique experience. Dense but really well done rulebook. Super fun gameplay with rolling dice and building your forces and moving your miniatures around and building the map, which no other board solo game in my collection lets me create a map however I want it. All right, and basically just it has the power of me creating my own scenarios too. It's just very impressive framework here. All right. But yeah, so let me know what you folks think. If you've tried this, if you have any experience with this system, any comments on it, other solo skirmish war games outside of the couple I mentioned just now. what you think of the genre. All right. So thank you so much for watching. And if you have any other comments, go ahead and leave them in the comment section. And if you enjoy this content, make sure to like and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next one.